This year, for my 40th birthday, I wanted to go on an adventure. When I told my wife I wanted to ride my motorcycle around Utah's 5 big national parks, she wasn't particularly supportive, thought I was going to kill myself, but told me that I could go as long as I could get someone else to go with me. I mean, I'm a grown man, 40 years old, right?
And I'm a daddy! I'm grown! I'm a daddy! I'm grown!
Stop being obsessed, you're making a radio.
You think you're tough?
Why do I need permission? I would lie if I said I hadn't considered having someone pose that they were coming with me, but then let them take off and I would complete the trip on my own. Asking for forgiveness is easier than permission, right? I brought the idea up with my friend Dennis, and he shot it down pretty quick, not thinking he could get away for another weekend. I knew if I was going to go on this trip, I had to sell it. I'd have to be organized. My neighbor Brent had gone on a recent motorcycle trip to Canada, so I asked him about whether he thought it would be feasible and what he thought was a good goal for daily mileage on a bike. He sounded enthusiastic about the idea and said I should totally do it, but he also expressed some doubt in being able to come because he wasn't sure if his sciatica, there's the whole old man thing again, right, would let him do an aggressive trip like that. I pulled up Google Maps and started looking at the route to see what stops I could add to make sure an old man like myself could do it. After all, I was turning 40. I was also nervous about my ability to do the trip because I was only just starting to recover from irritable bowel syndrome post a Mexico trip. Looking at the towns on the route only made me more excited for the trip, and I quickly put together a spreadsheet. What can I say? I'm a data guy. If I can see it on a spreadsheet, then it's real. This turned out to be a really important detail because as I thought of the other people that might be interested in coming, I was able to send them a link to the spreadsheet so they could start considering their ability to go and see the schedule and so on. Brent was immediately positive about it, but he was dealing with some health issues, so he didn't give an affirmative right away. I sent it to Dennis, and he didn't say anything different. I was getting desperate, and I don't know why I thought of Sean, but I decided to make a Hail Mary pass and sent Sean the itinerary. He immediately called me and said he had only just recently got his motorcycle registered again and thought he would have to get his seat reupholstered to make his trip. But he was enthusiastic and even asked me to send him some links about comms units. Well, that's 2 people with a tentative yes, so I started to think this ride might actually happen. I didn't have much hope for Dennis, and I swear I wasn't trying to bribe him, but after we made some cabbage pierogi, and I needed to share them with someone so I could keep losing weight, I didn't want my helmet to be too tight after all. I texted Dennis and asked if he wanted some Russian cabbage rolls. He said yes, so I rode my motorcycle up to his place to deliver the rolls. We got chatting outside, and I swear, again, I wasn't trying to pressure him, but when another riding buddy showed up and I started talking about my plans to do the Big 5 ride, Dennis actually accused me of trying to tempt him by showing up with my fancy new tires. But I can honestly say I was just trying to share some treats with him to keep from eating them myself. I mean, helmet cheeks, right? Well, Dennis asked his wife right then for the first time, and she agreed to let him come. He just didn't think he could get the whole day off, so started looking at the itinerary and making his own plans to meet us at the halfway point or some other position and ride back with the group for the second day. Remember how I said the itinerary was important? Well, the day of the ride came and we got a bit of a late start, but we left Spanish Fork close to 8 a.m. Sean, Brent, and I, 3, made the ride over Soldier Summit, which was colder than we expected, so we had to stop to let Sean put on my winter gloves.
Backpack if you want.
Turns out he was the only one that didn't have heated hand grips. And 38 degrees is a bit cold without those. Our first stop in Helper for breakfast was definitely a must to warm up. We started discussing politics a little, just not US politics so much. What followed is something that we laughed about for the rest of the trip. A beautiful woman walked up to our table and asked if she could add something to our conversation. We were all fully expecting her to add something to our topic of China or Russia and international politics. Instead, she said that we all looked tired and she mentioned that she had a motel room nearby that we could rest up in her room. I'm not sure anything more flattering could have happened for this group of old dads. After we kindly declined her offer since we were just starting our trip, we all joked about who we thought was the reason she walked over to our table.
When are we ever gonna catch a break?
Hi y'all.
Hej allihopa!
Hey guys, we're going on a national bikini tour, and we're looking for 2 oil boys who can grease us up before each competition.
You are in luck. There's a town about 3 miles that way. I'm sure you'll find a couple guys there.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Hej då!
After a quick fuel stop in Green River for gas and snacks for lunch, it was off to Arches National Park, where we barely made our timed entry appointment, but we had a lovely drive through Arches.
Oh. What about right there?
And then did the short hike up to the lower viewpoint for the Delicate Arch. We had our picnic lunch at the lunch table at the Delicate Arch parking lot, and on the way out, we stopped at the Visitor Center to pick up stickers for Arches National Park and Canyonlands. Dennis started trying to contact us at this point, but poor cell service plagued us for this whole trip. I used my iPhone to share my position with Dennis so he could find us, but his position looked like he was likely to meet us in Canyonlands, so we decided to head that direction. Canyonlands turned out much better than I remember, and we got lucky to not have to deal with lines getting into the park. The twisty roads through the park made for a fantastic ride. We made our way to the grand overlook for a picture opportunity, and we walked around taking a few more pictures while we waited for Dennis to show up. With Dennis, we were now up to 4 riders as we made our way back to Green River for our next fuel stop, before turning south again for Capitol Reef National Park. Sean's fuel light came on a bit early, and we didn't want to risk running out of fuel, so we stopped at a funny gas station at the junction with Highway 70. The pumps at Jackass Joe's looked a little sketchy, so those of us that didn't need gas urgently opted to wait until we got back up to Green River to fill up. I couldn't help but get a picture of the Planet Express ship though. Dennis later bemoaned that we should have picked up some alien jerky. We stopped again for fuel in Green River, and Sean had to leave for his kid's birthday and some other important errands that he had for the next day. We stood around and enjoyed some cold sports drinks for a minute before sending him on his way as we rode straight into the setting sun in the hopes we would make it to Capitol Reef before it got dark. Well, we didn't get there before it got dark. It struck me as we were heading towards Capitol Reef that each of the national parks in Utah has a slightly different feel to it. The highway from Hanksville to Capitol Reef felt otherworldly. The park was dark when we rolled in, and we decided to try to swing by the visitor center and get a picture. Brent had a nice camera that could do a long exposure, so it didn't look as late as it was, but it was pitch black when we took this picture. Finding dinner was more difficult than we had planned because all the restaurants were closed. The registration desk at the Sunglow said that there was a pizza place up the road. That turned out to be a famous diners and dives place called Curry Pizza. We shared 2 pizzas between the 3 of us, and that turned out pretty good. After a night in the motels in Bicknell, Utah, we got back on the road about 7:30 a.m. the next day, and I made a mistake in not turning on the GoPro camera immediately because the landscape was very different from what we saw up to this point in eastern Utah. We stopped for breakfast at the West Indigo Cafe in Boulder, Utah. This was a lovely little outdoor cafe next to a gas station that operated a sourdough bakery. I picked up a Kalamata olive sourdough loaf to eat for our picnic lunch later. I made sure to put on the GoPro, and the next segment of the Utah Highway 12 did not disappoint. I might even say that it was my favorite road that I've ever ridden on. It reminded me of the Nebo Loop that's near my house, and we got up to about 9,700 feet in elevation. Bryce Canyon National Park didn't disappoint either. The rock structures were gorgeous, and we did the Mossy Cave Trail that also has a lovely view of a small waterfall. We were scheduled for 2 hours here, but with the day being National Public Lands Day, the entrance to the parks being free, we decided to leave Bryce Canyon fairly quickly and leave some extra time for Zion. It was fun getting waved into Zion National Park and not finding a line of cars at the east entrance. My favorite part of driving through Zion is the tunnels and listening to the engines rev. time I was here, we had a dog with us, so we couldn't do any of the famous hikes. Being here with my friends and no dogs meant we could jump on the shuttle and go up the canyon where we hiked the Narrows. All right. I don't know how many chins that squirrel has. So I didn't get any more video after Zion because it was 104 degrees in that area and we just wanted to get out of the heat. So we jumped on the bikes, made it to Cedar City, stopped real quick for dinner, and then just burned it down I-15 to get back up to northern Utah. And that was the trip. At this point, I want to give a shout out to Brent, Sean, and Dennis. And because the ride was way more fun with friends than it would have been all by myself. Even if I would have been willing to do it all by myself. And for that, I have to thank my wife because she pushed me to make sure I had other people with me. And the trip was way more fun with other people out there. So thank you guys for being willing to come on that trip with me. It was a huge adventure, and I hope to plan something like that again. It'll be a different place though, because adventures are only adventures if you've never done it before.